up later. If you have Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila, chapter 1, verse 195, I think it is, where the author, Krishnadas Kaviraj, is describing the effect of transcendental poetry. Transcendental poetry is likened to an arrow that pierces the heart and makes the head spin. And quality poetry does both. You know, the head spin part is adbhuta rasa. That is, wow. That's a rasa sound. Wow. Makes the head spin. And pierces the heart. I don't know if those of you that did attend noticed, but the singer was weeping. She kept taking a cloth and wiping her eyes, and I know I was crying. Little old me, sandpaper heart fellow sannyasi. It was very, very moving. Pierced the heart and made the head spin. The poetry of Valmiki is like that, especially it with the assistance of our acharyas, the Sri Vaishnava acharyas in the case of Ramayana, and foremost or chief amongst them is Govindaraj, celebrated personality, even amongst the many, many, many. So anyway, I'm still moved. It's probably will continue to be moved by that experience. Very nice experience. It's easy to see how those who love Krishna and Krishna's pastimes in all three places, Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka, and his visits to Hastinapur as well, that meaning the time he spent with the Pandavas. So, Indraprastha and Hastinapur. But that's after leaving Mathura, so it can be a subset of the Dwarka pastimes. But there's the events, and then there's the rasa. Then there's the tattva, and dharma, and all those elements packed into poetry. And it's so nice. It's so nice. It's easy to get lost in any one of those four aspects of. So that's what we're going to be doing this evening a little bit because of circumstance. The title is Morality and Morality Corrupted, but it has to do with Ramchandra's Leela, and in his maintainer of the standards of etiquette, he's the upholder of the word of his father. He accepted Vibhishan within his army of Vanaras, again against the taking into consideration, but in dealing with the considerations of those that were not trusting Vibhishan, particularly Sugriva, and his wonderful way of expressing himself to mitigate his concern. The concern primarily by Sugriva was, I don't trust him. He's motivated. He's been so long with Ravana. How can he not be contaminated by that association? He's got to have an ill motive. I don't trust him. You know, he had reason, Sugriva had reason to not trust, having been dealt with the way that he was dealt with by Bali, and somebody that has power and, do all of what Ravana did, and what to speak of kidnap Sita, and everything, everybody else that he beat up on and defeated. His half brother, his step brother, Kuvera, same father, and he smashed Kuvera and took away his wealth and took away his property, his possessions, his kingdom, his pushbook of Vimana. Sugriva had reason to be not so sure about someone that's just been with this terrible person for so many years. So, taking a vow before Sarabhanga to kill the forest Rakshasas, it was a big one for Sita, and slaying Vali. So those are 4 topics that we'll be discussing that have both to do with morality and at least the presumption that morality was being corrupted. So upholding the words of his father, Dasarath, Ram entered the Dandak forest. And of course, the build-up is quite substantial. I'll just repeat many things that you know. It's not new. It's just, the excitement of the pastime. As the law of progenitor goes, the eldest son becomes the next king. And for that reason, kings had a great responsibility to have sons. That was not an easy task for Dasarath, that he had no sons. There's a detail. The detail is, according to Valmiki Ramayana, during the reign of Dasarath in Ayodhya, simultaneously was living Parshuram. Now, Parshuram was one of those, he's an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and his life spanned over many yuga cycles. But he didn't seem to age, he just was Parshuram. So it was during before the time of Dasarath, but when his father was killed, beheaded by some kings that wanted, they're eager to get his Kamadhenu, and Jamadagni didn't accept, because his process of yajna was dependent upon everything that was supplied by his very beloved Kamadhenu. So he said no when some kings asked. So he cut his head. And Parshuram was away. When he came back, he was enraged. His father was a Brahmana. Parshuram was also the son of a Brahmana. By birth, at least, he was a Brahmana, but he showed his Kshatriya spirit and took a chopper and traveled all over the place, killing degraded kings. So he passed through Ayodhya 350 times. And Parshuram had a policy. He won't kill a king if one of 2 reasons. One, the king is naked in the company of women. So he won't kill them. But that wasn't Dasarath. And the other reason is, if they're in the midst of marriage, he won't kill them. 350 times he passed through Ayodhya. 350 times he became married. Now, the explanation of the circumstance is not in Valmiki Ramayana. It's provided by the Sri Vaishnava Acharyas. But how did it come to be 350 wives? He wasn't a lusty fellow. It was self-preservation, dealing with Parshuram. So he had 353 wives, to be precise, and no son. So you know the history, and Ashwamedha Yagya, and this, that, and the other thing, and Rishishringha, and sure enough, there was payasam from the Ashvamedha and the other sacrifice, Putra Kameshti Yagya. And from the payasam, divisions were given to his wives. And he had 4 sons. And Ramachandra was the eldest, so by law, he was the incumbent king, and everyone knew. And also his qualification, he was superlatively qualified. And the other 3 brothers, not just because Ram was their elder brother, but because of their love for Ram, they firmly accepted that Ramchandra would become the next king. And there was no exception except for one. And there she is, Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi was actually happy. We know the story. Kaikeyi was actually happy when the king made the formal public announcement. Ramchandra is going to be installed as the next king, incumbent king, because he was very old at this time, Dasarath. Mantra whispered in her ear, called her bad names. You foolish woman. You look happy when you know that Ramachandra is going to become the next king. And all this is being done while Bharata is out of station visiting relatives. And you think it's nice? You foolish. It's so back and forth and insults. Mantra had a way to be able to speak very harshly, and Kaikeyi was simple enough that she would listen to what she said, and she put her up to accepting the 2 boons that Dasarath had promised her long ago. Kaikeyi had forgotten, Mantra hadn't. She reminded her and instructed her, here's the 2 boons you should ask for. So this is a B.G. Sharma painting depicting that here she is requesting with a nice smile, requesting the 2 boons. Remember, King Dasarath? Long ago you made a pledge to me. Oh yes, yes. Now I want to ask you to fulfill your promise. Do you promise your promise? No matter what I say, you promise? So he locked himself in. The 2 promises. Grant that my son Bharat be crowned king instead of Ram. And this was on the day of the coronation ceremony, although Bharat was out of town. And send Ram into exile into the forest for 14 years. So there's Kaikeyi with her arms across her chest, looking very defiant. Dasarath looking smashed. All of his jewelry was fallen on the floor. Vishishta was pleading with Kaikeyi, and she looks like, I'm not interested in your words. And there's Ram arranging for Sita and Lakshman to accompany him. There's a whole long emotional section where Ram goes to inform his wife, he informs his mother, he informs Vibhishan, Lakshmana, because the other 2 brothers are out of station, and they're preparing to leave. But one of the sections of her mind that I particularly admire is when Kaikeyi, because Dasarath couldn't say these 2 boons, so she said out, your father is not feeling well, so I'll tell you what those 2 boons are that he made promise for, 1, 2. And Ramchandra said, is that all, mother? I'll leave at once. I'll leave today. He was to become the king, and I'll leave today. Go to the forest for 14 years. That's, one of the 6 opulences of the personality of Godhead. Detachment. Vairagya. So he had to show Sita how to wear forest attire. Here's the king as they're saying goodbye. They're not wearing that same attire, but the same three, Lakshman, Ram, and Sita. Lakshman, Ram and Sita, and then Dasarath. Very, very sorrowful. And there they go, off into the forest. Now they're at least B.G. Sharma has him dressed in the irregular kingly attire. Sita in the middle, Lakshman standing in the back, protecting Sita, protecting Ram and Sita. There's a very nice verse, amongst many nice verses, found in the 5th canto Bhagavatam, where, I'll read the translation. The verse is saying, since Lord Ramachandra is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, he is not attached to anything in this material world. He is the most beloved super soul of all self-realized souls, and he is their very intimate friend. Exactly as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Jagatapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Suradam Sarvabhutanam, Yadvamam Shantim Richati. So, same message in the Bhagavatam. He is full in all opulences, therefore he could not possibly have suffered because of separation from his wife. Nor could he have given up his wife and Lakshmana, his younger brother. To give up either would have been absolutely impossible. And yet he did both. Now I had to do a little refresher, because we all know the circumstance of Sita being sent to the ashram of Valmiki, even when she was pregnant, because of the words of a washerman, a Sudra, Kadru, who spoke these words when we won't go through that whole story, but hearing the words of a Shudra speaking ill of Ramachandra because he had accepted Sita back in his company even after Sita had been out of the home for a whole month, what to speak of one night. So he banished Sita. That's well known. And we had one class the other day, 6 reasons why he did what he did, and therefore why he did what he did was not in violation of Dharma, it's in keeping with Dharma. Although standalone it looks pretty terrible. The situation with Lakshman being sent to the forest is very interesting. Perhaps you all know. When the situation arose that it was time for Ramachandra's departure from this world, we read in morning classes, Canto 9, Chapter 11, where Ramachandra is performing a yajna, because that was the process of purification and perfection in his age, Treta Yuga. So the proper yajna takes some time to formalize it, and then there are 4 priests representing each one of the priests representing one of the 4 Vedas, and they had their certain coordinated part. There's kind of like a 5th priest is kind of like the referee that makes sure they do what they're supposed to do properly. And they recited their mantras from each of the 4 Vedas at the appropriate time in the appropriate way, and so forth and so on. And at the end, this is a somewhat further glorification of Lord Ramachandra. At the end, he did what one who is engaging others in yajna is supposed to do. He gave in charity. And when he gave in charity, he gave everything. He gave, each of the 4 brahmanas, he gave his entire kingdom in the 4 directions. So it was left with nothing but his capital, Ayodhya. But the kingdom, and because the kingdom is the world, the king doesn't just stay in a palace somewhere in a big city. He has land of agriculture, and he oversees everything. He gave it all to the 4 priests. He gave all of his possessions to the acharya, leaving him, just his clothing. And the brahmanas decided independently, yet collectively, that, and there's verses that say, thank you very much. However, you're the proprietor of everything. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You accept the brahmanas as your Ishtadev, your worshipable deity, and we accept you as our worshipable deity. Everything is yours, so we're giving back to you that which is already yours, but you've given to us, but it's yours. And the one thing that will keep is our realizations that have come from being in your association and company, because transcendental knowledge has awakened within our heart, and that's the real valuable asset for a brahmana. It's very beautiful. Very beautiful. Loving exchange. And the moods of love between the 2, brahmanas and the Kshatriya. So he's the personality of Godhead. He has these 2 roles. He's the Supreme Person, and he's in the role of an ideal king with ideal character. So he doesn't abandon his divinity, but in his role as the ideal king, he plays the role. He's teaching by example everything. When it came time for his departure from the world, this is in Valmiki Ramayana, Kala, or time personified, came to pay him a visit. Kai means death. Time I am, the destroyer of all things, as it says in Bhagavad Gita. So Kala personified came, and he expressed, I want to have some private conversation with you. Can that be arranged? Of course, you're my unexpected guest. An unexpected guest is treated like the personality of Godhead, according to Vedic culture. And so he requested Lakshmana to guard the door. Kala, my guest here, would like an uninterrupted discussion. By no means don't allow anyone in. So Lakshmana obeyed the instruction given to him. And Kala said, the time for your departure has come. The purpose of your appearance has been fulfilled. The time for your departure has come. Time, this destroyer of all things. And while they're having this conversation, who should appear at the palace of Ramachandra but Durvasa Muni? Durvasa Muni said to Lakshman, I want to have word with your master. I've come to see him. Lakshman said, I have very firm instruction, so be patient. I'm losing my patience. With my anger, enraged, not only your master, but the entire city of Ayodhya and his whole kingdom will be burst into flames. You better let me in. So Lakshman disobeyed. And he brought Durvasa Muni in to see. He interrupted the discussion. And Durvasa Muni allowed them to finish, and then he said what he needed to say, and he departed. He was hungry, and he said, I understand your hospitality here in Ayodhya is super fantastic, so please, for me and my 60,000 assistants, my followers, will you please make some arrangements? So very quickly the arrangements were made. That Durvasa Muni was very satisfied, and he departed. Then Ramchandra wanted to inform Lakshmana of what time personified had just told him. That is, the time for his pastimes were finished. And I need to make some arrangement. I won't be able to bear separation from you, so I need to make some arrangement for you. And he started discussing making an arrangement, and Lakshman said, no problem. You made this pledge to time personified that if anyone enters, you will destroy them. You made this promise, so please destroy me. So, there's a document. You should have a copy of that document. You need to punish me. So there was interesting conclusion. Indra descended, and Indra took him to the heavenly realm. That's according to Ramayana. Although he's an eternal associate of the personality of God, or his direct expansion. In any case, he banished. He didn't want to do it. And Lakshman insisted, "You'll be breaking your word, and it'll destroy everything that you have accomplished. So you must punish me." And this is the fit punishment. And so he conceded. He abandoned Lakshman, which is impossible. And I read the commentary of Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur to this verse. You can look it up later. You have Bhagavatam set, many of you. 5.19.6. And he just underscores the same thing. Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur. It's not possible. Can the sun dismiss sunshine? Not possible. And Lakshman is his first expansion. It's not possible. In Leela, both were done, but it's a pastime that's a play, or it's a Leela. And that's exactly what Leela means. So the Bhagavatam is affirming that these pastimes of Sita and Lakshman being banished or separated deliberately by Ramachandra is not possible. So this is therefore the topic, morality abandoned. Here's another nice painting. This is Vibhishan's surrender. And many of you that are familiar with Ramayana, it's such an important part of Ramayana, because to gain access to the personality of Godhead requires surrender. And the surrender is through a medium. In this case, standing next to him, there's Lakshman. And standing next to Lakshman is Hanuman. And both Lakshman and Hanuman are representatives of the Guru Tattva principle. So both of them are accepting. And then there's Sugriva, who is the doubtful one. And there's, on the left side, there's Vibhishan and his 4 ministers. Now these 4 ministers, it's a detail, but it's a very nice detail. According to the Sri Vaishnava Acharyas, these 4 ministers represent the 4 aspects of surrender. So we're going to touch on that topic. Compliments of our Sri Vaishnava Acharyas. Ravana, you know, very brazen, powerful person. One time he was he went to visit Kailash, and he saw Lord Shiva on top of Mount Kailash with Parvati, and he decided to just lift the whole Parvat mountain. And when the Parvat mountain started to shake, because he put his 20 arms underneath the mountain and started lifting, Parvati became an anxiety, what's going on? And Lord Shiva said, don't worry, it's just this little fellow down there named Ravana, and he placed his big toe on the top of the mountain, and the big toe squished his arms underneath the mountain. And feeling the pain of his arms being squished, Ravana let out a loud roar. So he who was named previously was Dasagriva, or the one who has 10 necks or 10 heads, had a new name, roaring, Ravana, he of a terrible roar. And the opposite was his Vishravas, and then his half-brother Vaishravana. Similar spelling, but there's different accents in the vowels. Hearing distinctly, that was Vibhishan. Here's the family line. There were direct sons of Lord Brahma, born directly from his body. Pulasya Rishi was one of them. Pulasya married a Brahmani, the daughter of sage Trinabindu, and from the combination there was a son that was born, Vishravas. Vishravas had another one wife, the daughter of Bhardraj Muni, and from their combination came Kuvera, or this Vaishravana. However, because Vishrava was so pure and elevated and well known and reputed, there was a demon, Sumali, who had this idea that if his daughter was to become married or become the mother of the children of Vishravas, then there'd be wonderful children. So he made this request of his daughter. Kaikashi agreed to the proposal of her father, and she went to the ashram of Vishravas, of Vishrava. And she went at the wrong time. He was in the midst of a yajna. So she just stood there silently, scratching the ground with her toe, indicating she came with a purpose, but she didn't speak. And after some time, Vishrava stopped his yajna and said, I know who you are, I know what you want, you came at the wrong time. The answer is yes, but because of you've come at the wrong time, you'll have sons that will be terrible demons. So she, Sumali, daughter, was Tataka. The daughter of Sumali and Tataka. She, the Kaikashi, was concerned. Oh, terrible children. He said, because of your innocence, one of your children, Vibhishan, will be like me, and the others will be like your father. Rakshasas. So Dasagriva later became Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Shurpanakha. along with, so he had, not nice company for brothers and sister. And in course of time, because he was the younger brother, he had Vedic culture, and he was, in general, at least in principle, trying to be supportive, transcendentally supportive of his brother. But as we know, that very nice. It was really nice, this discussion Nityananda Pran made. The largest section of Ramayana, of the 7 Kandas, takes a day and a half. And that's Hanuman's, the Sundarakanda, Hanuman's visit. And at the end of the visit, the whole of Lanka is on fire. He found Sita, that was his mission. There was a very, very beautiful exchange between Hanuman and Sita to win her confidence and so forth and so on. It's a really nice discussion. Really nice discussion. Shoo. The way that description of Ram's encounter with the crow, she wants, it's really nice. She wants to give a message to Ramachandra for Sita to carry with him, so that that Hanuman can carry with him, so that Ramachandra will know that he found Sita. So she stops speaking to Hanuman, and she's speaking as if Ramachandra is right there in the room with her, or not in the room, under the Shimsupa, to the tree under which she was seated. Anyway, long discussion. I won't go with that. You listen to the recording. It's just so wonderful. You know the story, but to hear the way it's narrated and the singing and everything's breathtaking. So, after he finds Sita, and she gives this ring of Ramachandra, so Ramachandra will know that Sita was found. He wants to give a lesson to Ravana. Just give Sita back. You're going to bring ruination to your whole kingdom, this and that. He wants to give a lesson. So he does. And part of the end of the lesson is he ignites the whole of Lanka into fire. Because as you see the painting, his tail was set on fire. So his tail is dangling in the sea. So he's cooling out his tail. And meanwhile, back in Lanka, with whatever buildings were left, Ravana called for a meeting with his ministers on how to deal with this monkey that just came and made a big mess of things. And we were warned that Ramchandra will come with a massive army, and can we meet his massive army? And he knew what they would boast their power. This one, that one, the other one, a big bragging session going on. And one of the persons consulted was Ravana's maternal grandfather. So Kaikashi was his mother, and her father, Malyavan, advised return Sita. So he said, even in his own group, just return Sita. Don't put this whole kingdom at risk. Ravana couldn't hear it. It's very stubborn, very proud, very arrogant. Ravana's younger brother, Vibhishan, also argued with Ravana that he cannot possibly withstand such an army and should hand over Sita to obtain peace. Peace messenger failed. They disagreed. Vibhishan defected to Ram's camp with its 4 ministers. So there's a really nice section I wanted to share. Like, what did Vibhishan say? Because this is giving a sense of his heart. He's advising his brother, who he's been loyal to, at least loyal in terms of staying in Lanka instead of just leaving because the man is crazy. Give up that happiness and anger which destroys virtues. Seek pleasures that enhance fame. Be pacified. Live happily with sons and relatives. Restore Mithili to Ram, son of Dasarath. So there he is before his big brother, speaking with folded hands in a very humble way, but straight. O annihilator of enemies, we are seeing inauspicious omens since Sita arrived here. There's certain verses, verse numbers in this section of Ramayana. So the painting is meant to depict all these terrible omens. He describes them in his verses. O king, why have you desired Sita, who has a snake hood at her bosom, has poison of grief, has sharp fangs behind her gentle smile, and has 5 fingers of her palm as 5 heads of a snake called Sita? You're dealing with a poisonous serpent. Don't do this. Ram's arrows will not leave you with life, even if you are guarded by the sun or wind god, not even if you sit on the lap of Indra, the god of death, and even if you enter the sky or underwater. You're not going to escape the wrath of Ramachandra for what you've done. All your ministers have abstained to pass this counsel to you. Whatever is seen or heard, it is to be told certainly by me. Hence, you ought to do according to a justification of things for the occasion. So do the right thing. His brother can't hear that. So commentary says, he was well-wishing, he was greatly beneficial, he was gentle, filled with logic that is applicable to past, present, and future. Ravana became enraged. He heard, but he became enraged. He poured ghee into a fire and makes the fire stronger. While Vibhishan advised in Ravana's favor with all good intention, Ravana, who was under the influence of death, who was holding on to a feverish anger, and who was full of passion, spoke harsh words. He looked pretty angry. One can live with a known enemy, or even with an angry and venomous serpent, but cannot stay together with one who professes to be a friend and devoted to an enemy. Just as honeybees do not have gratitude after drinking honey and satisfying themselves, the friendship with an unworthy person like you is of no use. So he's deciding to kill him. He who, other than you, actually utters the aforesaid words in the very way you have done, O Ranger of the Night, would have undoubtedly ceased to be this very moment. As for you, a curse upon you, a disgrace of your race. So he's sufficiently insulted after giving nice advice, or proper, appropriate advice. Vibhishan, who had spoken what is right, rose in the airspace, mace in hand, along with his 4 ministers. So the scene, although this is depicting just the 2 of them having conversation, the scene in Ramayana is they're in an assembly. And the members of the assembly are hearing the back and forth. They don't have a loudspeaker system, but they could hear everything both parties were saying. So right from the seating position, he rose in the air. He had mystic powers. Now there's a big celebration about Hanuman leaping all the way across the ocean, but Vibhishan could do it. His 4 ministers could do it, and Shurpanakha did it, and others did it. But it's very, the way that it's narrated in Valmiki Ramayana is very wonderful. He encountered obstacles, unlike what each of these have been able to do. Standing in airspace, the glorious Vibhishan, who was filled with indignation, addressed the following words at that moment to Ravana. So here are his words from Valmiki Ramayana. O king, you being my elder brother may tell me what you wish. You are equal to father, being elder brother, and are to be honored. But you have not followed the righteous path. The words you spoke are not pardonable. O 10-headed king, fallen under the sway of death, you are foolish. You do not understand the well-prepared good words spoken by me, wishing for your welfare. O king, those who speak pleasingly are always easier to find than those who speak unpleasant but good words. Listeners of unpleasant words, though good, are difficult to find. And he departed. And when he departed with his 4 ministers, he went directly to the place where Ramchandra was. He knew where he was. Significant, he stayed hovering in the air. He didn't immediately, he could have, but he had culture. He didn't immediately go to Ramachandra and fall at his feet. He could have. But instead, he requested, the person who greeted him was Sugriva, please carry a message to Ramachandra. Ask him if he will accept my surrender. That is to say, in the process of Sharanagati, there must be a representative of the surrender unto the person. We heard this in this narration yesterday. Sita was the one that gave shelter to the son of Indra, who had taken the form of a crow. Remember that story? The crow that was pecking at Sita? You familiar? No? You know Ramayana a little bit. Yeah. There's a scene that's narrated by Sita to Hanuman, seated in the Shok grove underneath the tree. She's telling him of this event that took place between her and Sita, the unfinished surrender. It's all about surrender. So there was a crow that started harassing her this way, that way. It's a long narration. And he wouldn't go away. He wouldn't go away. As much as she tried, he wouldn't go away. Then later, Ram had Sita had Ram in her lap, and some blood dripped onto the face of Ramachandra. And he wanted to know, Sita, what's this blood? She didn't want to say. He's the one that did it. She didn't want to say. She wanted to be the accuser of a wrongdoing. That was Sita. But it was a crow. And Ramchandra looked in this whole series of events. The crow went here and there and there. Ramchandra invested a Brahmastra power in a blade of grass, and the blade of grass was thrown by Ramachandra. There's very nice details. How can a Brahmastra not supersede the flight of a crow? There's a very interesting detail, but I won't go there. Very interesting, very sweet. The crow came back, having sought shelter in all directions. It's something very similar to the Durvasa Muni running from the Sudarshan Chakra of Lord Vishnu. You know that narration from the Bhagavatam. So the crow was fleeing from the Brahmastra weapon, realized the only place of shelter is the lotus feet of Ramachandra. He came back and fell at the lotus feet of Ramachandra upside down. Sita turned him right side up and placed his head at the feet of Ramachandra. An expression of mercy. That is, the crow got the mercy of Sita and thus got the shelter of Ramachandra. Similarly, because Vibhishan didn't approach Ram directly, he approached through a representative of Ramachandra. In this case, it was Sugriva. And Sugriva had his reasons for not trusting him. So Sugriva dutifully carried the message to Ram and said, Vibhishan just arrived, and this is what he wants. And I don't think you should give him shelter because. So Ramchandra did what an ideal king would do. He consulted others rather than just making a quick decision. And others said different things. And Sugriva was very stubborn. He said his, I don't trust him again message. Ramchandra asked Hanuman. I like this. And Hanuman said, because he was silent until spoken to. He said, there's nothing to discuss. I know your heart. And you've already accepted him, one who takes shelter of you, regardless of their background and their upbringing and their this and their that. They take shelter of you, you give them shelter. There's nothing to discuss. It's done. And then Sugriva says, yeah, but. And there's this really back and forth several times exchange. Finally, the Ram says, even if all these things that you have doubts about, I'm so powerful, with a flick of my wrist, he's gone. So that means the one who is worthy of taking shelter has Shakti, has the power to give that place of shelter. Here's another painting depicting, there's Vibhishan and the four assistants behind him. There's Jambavan. There's Hanuman with the club. There's Sugriva with the crown on his head right behind Ramchandra. So this is the lesson of surrender. Again, the Sri Vaishnavacharyas is a big section of commentary over this particular event. And each of the four ministers represents two aspects of surrender. So there's the one who is surrendering and the one who is being surrendered unto. I mentioned one, the one who is being surrendered unto is the Shakti. He can afford to give shelter because he is all-powerful. No one can harm him. That's the personality of Godhead. That can't be said about anybody but the personality of Godhead. When shelter taking is done, it may be through a representative, but the shelter is unto the Supreme. So, two qualifications. Because of time, I'm talking too much. I want to move forward. Two qualifications of the one who's wanting to take shelter. It's like a checkmate. I possess nothing which I view as my shelter. Akinchana tvam. Tvam is having the property of, or having the quality of. I have no shelter. I possess no shelter other than you. Second, ananya gati tvam. Same tvam again, somethingness. Ananya means no other. Anya means other, and the ananya means no other. You're my only shelter, I have no other shelter. I've nowhere else to go to take shelter. I fully repose my shelter-taking spirit in the Sharanya, the person who's giving me shelter. They sound the same, but they're mutually distinct. You can have one without the other, or vice versa. So that's the qualification of one taking shelter, and Vibhishan has it. And Saralata, and this was part of what Ramachandra said, I make no distinction. Unto whom I give shelter. That's Saralata in English is simplicity. You know, Krishna and Ramachandra and exalted persons representing them don't make distinctions. You know, so many examples of who Ramachandra gave shelter to. He gave shelter to a tribal man. He gave shelter to a squirrel. He gave shelter to monkeys. He gave shelter to a vulture. He gave shelter to everyone, regardless of species or any, prior condition. No condition. No prior condition. Saralata. Simplicity. It's a very nice topic. Just that one topic, simplicity, is a very nice topic. It's a very nice quality. So there he is taking shelter. There are his 4 ministers behind him, and they're the personalities with Ramachandra in their foreground, giving shelter. There's 2 more pastimes, and I better go more quickly with these 2 more pastimes. Right after Ramachandra had this pledge to his father to go to the forest for 14 years, then the Balakanda ends and the Aranyakanda begins, the forest section. As soon as he enters the forest, there's this encounter with sages. And the sages' ashram is Charabanga's ashram, and they do what sages would naturally do. Of course, he is the personality of Godhead, and he is a Kshatriya. And they know both, so they're brahmanas, very, very qualified brahmanas, but they're honoring Lord Ramachandra. And there you see flowers at his feet and so forth and so on. In the background, there's Lakshman and Sita. And they make some request. If you look carefully in this painting, in the far right upper corner, there's ashes, or bones rather. Bones of the remains of some sadhus that had been eaten alive by Rakshasas in the forest. So here's the meeting, and the various personalities and their little bhajan kutir places, their little ashram. And there's Sharabanga, the head of all these great sages. And this painting shows it better. Over there in the background, in the center, there's a pile of bones or corpses that were the victims of Rakshasas coming into the realm of the sages and eating people. So they pointed and gestured to this devastation of many of their predecessors and asked Ramchandra to give them protection. You are going to be the king. You're the oldest member of the dynasty of Dasarath. So please give us Kshatriya. Please give us protection. Now they had power sufficient to destroy the Rakshasas, but they didn't want to diminish their Brahma Tejas, and so they made the request of Ram to do. And he made this pledge in front of Sita and Lakshman. When Sita heard this pledge, she requested an opportunity to speak with her husband privately. And when she spoke to him, there's this very beautiful and lengthy discussion. She said, it is well known that even a virtuous person can become corrupted if they have any one of these three faults. One, they lie. That's not you. You uphold your word. You're not a liar. That's not within your scope. Or illicit sex. That's also not within your scope. That can destroy anyone if they indulge in this behavior. But there's a third, and this is the one I'm concerned about: unprovoked cruelty. It can destroy the good character of anyone. And then she told the story. There was a story of a sage who had undergone such severe austerities that Indra got nervous. Uh-oh. Maybe he wants to take over my heavenly kingdom. And so he decided to trick him. Indra came in disguise as of a warrior, and he made friendship with the sage, who he treated him very nicely because he's an unexpected guest, and unexpected guests are treated like God. But it was Indra in disguise as a warrior. And the warrior made a request: "My dear sage, I have a sword. Could you take care of the sword and protect it? And when I come back, then my sword will be here in safekeeping with you." "Sure, I'll do that." So he started carrying the sword around. The story is lengthy, but he ended up becoming corrupted just by carrying the sword. And in course of time, he became violent with the sword in his hand. And at the end of his life, he went to hell. Sita narrated all of this and then paused and said, "These sages, they made a request of you to defend them against the Rakshasas, but the Rakshasas haven't done anything to you. And if they're not your aggressors, and you take the life of someone who's not been an aggressor to you, this can be considered unprovoked cruelty." I'm going to little quick Prabhupada story about unprovoked cruelty. It's very simple. There are times in Vrindavan where it's mosquito season. So I know one family that is planning to move to Vrindavan. I hope they're prepared for mosquito season because they're really aggressive. So Prabhupada was in Vrindavan during mosquito season, and there were mosquitoes buzzing around. So the devotees had those little, thing with a handle, and it's a fan. They were moving the fan to shoo away the mosquitoes because they didn't want mosquitoes to bother Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, "Leave them alone. They're not aggressors." And so they followed what Prabhupada said. And then one of them landed on his arm and started to suck blood. He said, "Get him." Because he's now become an aggressor. Having a tendency to be an aggressor is one thing. To be an aggressor is another thing. He made a distinction like that. So, there's two exceptions, from Prahlad Maharaj's teachings. Those two exceptions are a scorpion and a cobra. Even if not provoked, they'll harm. They're lethal. Anyway. Ramchandra heard her out. He didn't stop her or did anything. He explained, "I'm the son of Dasrath. We're in the line of Ikshvaku. We're here as representatives of the Supreme Personality Godhead and of the Sun God, and it's our duty to give protection. So though the aggressors have not been directly against me, they've been directly against these sages, and they're under my protection. So I'm duty bound. It's not corruption, it's a duty. I'm not just a fellow, I'm the representative of the king." She was satisfied. And the rest of their Aranyakanda, he had to deal with some Rakshasas here and there. And this is the final of 4. And this is Ram slaying Vali. Now, as you know, Vali was Sugriva's brother. And Vali had taken advantage. Here's the quick story. They were very close brothers, and there was a Rakshasa who was harassing in the kingdom, and so Vali pursued him, and the Rakshasa ran, and the Rakshasa ran inside a cave. It was a very powerful Rakshasa. So Vali said, Sugriva, you stand by the cave and don't let anybody else enter. I'm going to go in and deal with this Rakshasa. So he went in the cave, and there was Sugriva standing by the mouth of the cave for 1 year. And nothing happened. And then after 1 year, some blood came gushing from the inside of the cave. And he thought, uh-oh, my brother's been killed by this wicked demon, Rakshasa. So he put a big boulder in the mouth of the cave and went back to the castle, the kingdom. When he came back, everyone wanted to know, where's Vali? It looks like he's been killed. So they wanted him to become the king, so he was accepted as the king. Sugriva became the king. And lo and behold, it wasn't Vali that was killed, it was the demon that was killed. And he came back and he saw Sugriva sitting on his throne. The elder brother seeing the younger brother seated on the throne. So he became very angry with him, and they did battle. Although they're brothers, they did battle. And after he did battle, and Sugriva ran for his life, and he went to the one place that he was told that Sugriva, that Vali wouldn't go, because there was a curse if he ever went there. Sage Matanga cursed him. If you ever go to this place, you'll immediately die. So he went to Rishimukh mountain for safety, protected by the curse of Sage Matanga. And here we see Lord Ramachandra having this vow, taking vows vows within a fire, touching the fire and taking a vow. I'll help you get back your kingdom and your wife, because Vali had usurped his wife, and Ramchandra's wife had been usurped. This goes back to they're making their friendship to regain their wives and regain the kingdom. On the ground you see Ramchandra's bow, but you also see some ornaments, and the ornaments were placed before Ramachandra to indicate these were the ornaments that Sita, flying above with Ravana, dropped down. So perhaps someone will recognize. So I recognize these are Sita's ornaments. Now the pledge is made, and Ramchandra agreed that I'll go first. I'll help you get back your wife Ruma. And Sugriva was doubtful. He is this doubting type of person. You have no idea how powerful is my brother. This and that, the other thing. How do I know you'll be able to defeat him? So Ramchandra demonstrated his prowess. There's 7 sal trees. Sal trees are like oak, real hard wood. And 1 arrow shot through 7 sal trees, which shows a lot more than 7. And Sugriva became convinced. So the plan was for Sugriva to go to the palace of Vali, make a lot of noise, and convince Vali to come out and battle with him, and Ramchandra would shoot Vali with an arrow. So they fought reasonably well, or evenly, for some period of time. But after some time, Vali was stronger, and he was defeated. Sugriva was defeated so badly, he barely survived, and he ran back to Rishimukh mountain with Vali chasing him. And the bottom part of the painting, that's the two wives. One was Vali's wife, the other was Sugriva's wife, and some other ministers, etc. There they are fighting. There's Ramachandra on the left side, and he didn't fire the arrow. So there was a doubt. Ramchandra said, I didn't fire the arrow because I couldn't distinguish between you two brothers. You look so much alike. And was that a lie? And here's the answer. Ramchandra said, Sugriva, you are an offender much like Vali. I don't see a difference between you two. And what was the offense of Sugriva? We know what the offense of Vali was. What was the offense of Sugriva? He offended Lakshman. How did he offend Lakshman? On two occasions, there was an opportunity for Lakshman, for Ram and Sugriva to meet. So Sugriva made a sitting arrangement for Ram and a sitting arrangement for himself, but ignored Lakshman. It did happen twice. Mild compared to what Vali did, but an offense to Lakshman, offense to a Vaishnava, what to speak of Guru representative Vaishnava, it's serious business. So same as we heard yesterday, don't mess with Lakshman. You're going to have some problem. However, the arrangement was, Sugriva, if Lakshman shows you his favor, let Lakshman make a garland for you, and then you can put the garland around you, and then when you and Vali are fighting, I'll know the difference between the two. Now, in the course of fighting, isn't the garland going to come off? That's what I always thought. They're fighting till death. But the main was Sugriva made the garland, Lakshman made the garland, Lakshman placed the garland on him, indicating his forgiveness. Because Lakshman forgave, Ram forgave. Now I could tell the distinction. Vali is the bad guy, and you're now freed from your offense to Lakshman. Now the two can be distinguished. Then sometimes people say, wait a minute, he could have said that at the very beginning. Why didn't he say it at the very beginning? And the answer is, it's just a subtle way, a gentle way of correcting misconduct. Supposing you know somebody has done some misconduct. What do? Blah, 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 blah. Not necessarily. If you're a cultured and a subtle person, you may indicate that to them in some other way, which is what Ramachandra did. He corrected the problem in a gentle and subtle way. That's his kindness. And it's not easy to understand, but persons that are cultured know the distinction. There's a very nice example also given by Madhvacharya. The question is a different question, but it's a nice explanation. As you know, Madhvacharya made commentary on Mahabharata, and there's a section of Mahabharata that deals with Ramchandra's pastimes, and he made commentary on that section. And Ramachandra was holding up, or resisting doing anything right away, because sometimes brothers and brothers or two siblings can get into a quarrel that doesn't last so long. And if I killed Vali right now, then there may be an irretractable regret between Sugriva feeling, oh, you killed my brother. He's my brother after all. So Ramchandra, not wanting to have that blemish stain him or Sugriva, he chose not to have him killed the first time. That's Mahabharata, or the, um, Madhvacharya's explanation from Mahabharata Tatparya Nirayas. So second time he has his garland. There he's wearing the garland. There's Ramchandra behind the tree. There's other Vanaras watching. And he fires the arrow and pierces the heart of Vali. Different art styles depicting this. And when the arrow pierces his heart, he turns from the direction that the arrow came, and he wants to know who shot this arrow, who hit me in the chest. Because he had this invincible pendant that was going to protect him from this type of thing, and somehow the arrow pierced his body. There's details about that detail. So he then accuses Ramchandra of violation of codes of conduct for a Kshatriya. You're hiding behind a tree in combat? What's that? Cowardice. You're killing, and I'm innocent, I'm an animal, and you're killing me? What kind of conduct is this? So he has accusations against Ramachandra. And one of the key names of Ramachandra, I'm going to end quickly, Maryada Purushottama. He's the observer of proper conduct according to the codes of the scripture. So now, I've done nothing, I've not been an aggressor to you, or you're killing me. That was one of the accusations. And it's similar to what was said earlier. The entire earth belongs to the descendants of Manu, having been bequeathed to them by that great deity. It's the duty to promote virtue and punish the wicked. If one is sinful and one fails to punish the sinful, that sin goes to the person, the controller, the protector that didn't punish them. Here's a rule of morality. You have a younger brother, and the younger brother is to be regarded like your son, and the wife of your younger brother is to be like a daughter-in-law. And so, Bali, you had two great sins. One of them, you punished the sinless Sugriva, your younger brother, who you're to be the protector of, and cohabiting with Sugriva's wife. Death penalty for both persons, both violators of sin. And I'm the administrator as the representative of the line of Manu and the Ikshvaku dynasty. Third, you're now free from that sinful reaction. The sinful reaction would have sent you to hell. You're now freed from that because you've been killed in a religious principle. You're accusing me of irreligion, but it's freeing you from going to hell. A person punished by the king is released from all sins and ascends to heaven. But if the king fails to punish a sinner, then he himself incurs the sin. The fourth reason, I did not act wrongly by remaining concealed since you were a monkey. This was the appropriate way to kill you. When hunting, the king shoots arrows at animals while hidden from view. You accuse me of adharma, but you're the adharmi. And Vali accepted all four of these reasons. He made gifts to Sugriva Tara, and Tara grieves his death. Here's the gifts, 1, 2, 3. I give my kingdom back. I usurp the kingdom because of my wrongdoing. I completely forgive Sugriva and restore him as the rightful king of Kishkinda. The second gift, I have a son named Angada, and I entrust my son to Sugriva's care, asking him to look after him as his own son. And the third, he returned Ruma to Sugriva. 3 gifts. And with that, he left his body, and then comes his wife to grieve his death. Tara was his wife's name. And that's the end of his presentation. And it's only 8 o'clock. Something that made a comment when we got here. It's a long drive to come from the temple to come all the way to Katy. And you know what? It's the same distance going back. So I have a lot of appreciation for all of you that go over to the Houston temple, because it's not around the corner. But it's really nice there. And the deities are very, very nice. And like yesterday, this wonderful concert in recitation of Ram's Leela, and I'm sure you have many, 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 many visitors, I know. Hanumat Prashik Swami just came back this morning, this midday. He's been gone for 3 months. But you're going to have his entertaining association once again for some time. And, Houston gets many wonderful devotees visiting here. And so it's worth a long journey to go all the way to Houston. But one day, it'll take a while, but one day, and I'm, twisting arms a little bit, gently, let's do something in Katy. Because Sakshat Hari was hearing me going on about this the other day. Really should have something here. And the day will come. I was informed what are some of the steps that have been taken, and this year some additional steps that will be taken, etc., etc., etc. I mean, starting a temple isn't like baking a cake and distributing the cake. It's not quite like that. It's a little more involved. But one day, by Krishna's grace and all of your enthusiasm and meeting more people, and let me put in a word for our book distribution team. This young man over here, Sakshat Hari, is very involved and was describing to me, both on the way out and the way back, how receptive people are when going door to door, and there's a lot of good people here, and they're just loitering, or they're not yet connected. We'll put it that way. And connection can take a while, and it has to do with association and friendship and warmth and kindness and good Vaishnava character and qualities. I'm sure things will grow kaboom. I'm sure. I'm sure I'll visit here too once you start something up. One last thing, I'll end. One of my dedications, primary dedications, is visiting colleges, and there's a reason. The reason is, once upon a time I was a college kid, and Prabhupada visited our campus. And I learned later, he risked his life, literally, to go in the middle of nowhere and find a nobody in the middle of nowhere and rescue me. And I feel very grateful. And I want to, the way to express gratitude is to do something, not just say thank you. It's a teaching. It's right in Sundarakanda. The very first Mainaka that comes out of the sea, there's this whole expression. Both the sea and the mountain, Mainaka, were feeling grateful that their lives had been benefited immensely by the wind god and by an ancestor of King Sagara did some great benefit for the sea. So, you not just say thank you, but you do something. So one of the things that I do is visit universities. I mean, I do a few other things, but that's one of the things I like to do. And I found this out. There's a little script. So whoever is like the announcer, they pull out their cell phone and they read the script. It's the same script. It's really boring. And you know, one of the things that they say in the script is, and he, you know, helps establish communities all over America. So let's establish a nice community here. I mean, there's already Sangha, and then something that's more formal, and you watch what happens. It's like bees in a honeycomb, and people will come. And then you'll have to have a bigger place. So you have to start with a big place, start with something, and then it can become a bigger place. And I've had exactly that happen in a number of situations, without going into detail. So, I'm your cheerleader. Rah, 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 team, go, go, go. I know you can do it. Rah, rah, rah. And Krishna will smile. Prabhupada will smile, Krishna will smile. The mission will be fulfilled, or furthered, let's say. And then another frontier, and then another frontier. So back to our topic. Morality and morality corrupted. Any discussion on this topic that we discussed for the past hour and a half? Those of you that were on time, thank you very much. Those of you who came a little bit late, thank you also. It's nice that people can come on time. Anyone? All the way in the back. You have something up front? All the way in the back. Yeah, go ahead and speak, because the microphone for people who are remote. Okay, you are loud. So nice question. They're not exactly animals. They're vanaras. They're in a different category. Now, exactly the distinction between a monkey and a vanara, I'm not qualified to give that distinction, but it's a good question. If they're this, they're this. And if they're that, they're that. But they're not exactly this or exactly that. For the monkey-looking species, the vanaras are monkey-looking. Jambavan is a bear-looking species. The Jatayu is a vulture-looking species. So there's certain characteristics that do apply. And so Lord Ramachandra is the one that's qualified to, this applies and that doesn't apply. So I guess you could go ask Ramachandra. Why are you applying it over here and not over there? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hare Krishna. subtle. Yeah. Well, he did. So you're asking a question about you or anyone? You, okay. So anyone, there's this nice teaching in Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, verse number 15. If you have the proper relationship with someone, then you can speak words of correction. If you don't, then don't. So, if your door is open and you have relationships with people that are close to you, they can say things to you that people that aren't shouldn't. So be open. Be selective and with openness, but open the door to persons that you know, that they know that you trust them. And then they can say something instead of not saying something. There are persons who I know and I don't say. Some persons I do know and I try to say and it bounces. So that tells me they're not ready to hear. But when it's relationship based, then I feel I can say. So have relationship with people that they know that you trust them and they're trustworthy, and then they can say. Because all of us have shortcomings, and who's going to say shortcomings? A fault finder is going to say shortcomings, no problem. But that bounces generally. So some of this, that's an odd. It takes the relationship. Therefore, it's very important for all Vaishnavas to have meaningful relationships. Trust where people are trustworthy. Then you become trustworthy, and people will trust you. Then when you feel that trust is there, you can say. And don't be attached to they're going to have to listen to you because it's you, and you're right. Meaningful relationships are very special and exceptional. That's okay. Meaningful and exceptional. Next. Anyone else? Okay. Yes. Become a transcendentalist. Another way of saying the same thing is, without intelligence you won't. So where does intelligence come from? From Super Soul. He's the giver of intelligence. So become a qualified Vaishnava, and then you'll be able to discern. And if you're not a qualified Vaishnava, then find one that is, and in the right time and the right circumstance, then you seek guidance. And you look through the instructions of our loving spiritual master, loving founder Acharya, and then he set many standards by his personal conduct. I know I made this advocacy during my last birthday, Vyasa Puja Day event. There are biographies about Prabhupada's life written by those that have this personal association. You'll learn things through that intimacy that you'll not understand otherwise. Proper, how do I decide in this situation or that situation? It's really helpful to have his example, because he knew how to discriminate between this and that. And it's wonderful reading. And many of those people are busy, so there's audiobooks, and some people like reading more than audiobooks, and that's fine. But there are audiobooks for people that are busy. Okay. And for plugging book distribution, right? Good. Well, incremental progress is sustainable. I'm commenting that enthusiasm, to sustain enthusiasm, you strive for a little bit at a time. And a little bit at a time is sustained effort over a period of time. That's sadhana. It fits Patanjali Yoga, Patanjali's definition of practice. Every day, little at a time, and sustained over time, with faith you're going to get to your destination. So our destination is Krishna will be pleased. And just keep doing that, and Krishna will be pleased. I'm going to end. Thank you all very much for coming one more time. And one more evening tomorrow, right? See you tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.